All right. So how can we prevent rug pulls or similar behavior in the projects built in Ergo? Well, I mean, Joe, I'm sure you have your own, um, I guess, outlook on this, but I mean, really, look, can you prevent rug pulls? Well, no, you can't. You can't because you're dealing with humans. Um, you can do all you can to kind of mitigate and to create a condition where more accountability is, I guess, required for projects to pursue a course within the ecosystem, right? So if there's, say, community funds involved, report to the community, have milestone reports for the community, asking for transparency, having a minimum viability for transparency in projects that the community reporting. Again, if there is actually investor funds or crowd investor funds from the community, that's again something that is important to have paradigms for, right? So what are they minimally required to do? And I mean, but overall, really, you know what? If you're a project in the ecosystem and you're building something on Cardano or an Ergo, or, well, in this case, we're talking about Ergo, regardless of the conditions of around you, it is your sole responsibility to deliver a product. That is your responsibility as a project. You are solely responsible for delivering a product. And anything can come up. Okay, I mean, the Ergo core development team could turn into evil lizards. Okay, and do just lizard stuff, and you're not going to be able to use the tooling and all these things. You have to plan for the worst. Okay, try your best, but prepare for the worst. Okay, have contingency plans. Have ways that you can, plan A, plan B, plan Z, and even think further. If you cannot deliver, face the reality. If I cannot deliver, what do I do? And the bottom line here is full transparency. Doesn't matter how painful it is. Don't protect anybody. Don't try to play, by anybody's fiddle. Think about the product and think about delivery. It just all comes down to personal responsibility as a business person, as a project, or as a project, as a group of business people. So again, can we prevent them? No, I don't think we can. Can we mitigate them? Yes, I think so. But ultimately, it is up to you to really use your own judgment and really do your own research. Use your own judgment, understand how to screen projects for yourself, and just be careful out there. Nothing is 100% safe. Thoughts on that, Joe?
Oh, hold your butt, Dan. I could go forever on this topic.
Holding.
So let's start with the basics, okay? In my opinion, if I'm going to build something as a developer and I want to profit solely from my project, I think I should make it immutable and build in fees, right? That way it's use case. And if I build something that's popular, I get an economic benefit from what I build. Now, we've shifted as an industry for, it's been a while since like 2017, where we had this idea of distributed ownership and kind of, let's say, the DAO type of governance infrastructure. So far, in my opinion, it's pretty much a fucking joke, right? And you can look at the goal of that should be to eliminate single points of failure, right? To where if I can move the governance of a project into a distributed environment, at that point, there may be leaders, but there's not somebody that could just rug a project, right? Because ideally it's distributed, and at that point, single points of failure are eliminated and community funds are kind of under distributed management. So if the dev team, doesn't deliver, they should be able to be removed and replaced. If a leader in the project, let's say creates a political issue with their let's say community, or is just net irresponsible with the distributed business, they should be able to be removed, right? And the reality is the blockchain is actually a very powerful place to put that type of immutable tooling, right? We do have the project in the Ergo system, Paideia, and that's basically what they're trying to do, is to say, okay, how can we take a governance token and actually govern instead of, take something, speculate on it, and then if one guy changes his mind, everybody loses all their money. That's a terrible idea. And in my opinion, you got to be very, very, very careful with a lot of these governance tokens because they don't fucking do anything, right? And you have people that get hurt. You have people that lose real money because they have some idea that, it's going to be profitable, and they don't manage risk. If you were to look in like the traditional VC environment, if I were to come in with just an idea and say, okay, I don't have a minimal viable product, I have no code, but I've got a nice idea, the majority of the time you would get laughed out of the room, right? And I do think that it is a good idea for people that are going to invest their funds in future ideas to make sure that it's a solid idea, that, there's at least a probability of delivery. And, when markets are hot, people just throw their money at stuff. Risk assessment goes out the window and things overheat and markets correct. And then risk is readjusted, right? And so kind of right now in our space, we do have, let's say, a lot of counterparties that have done terrible in terms of risk management. And, we've seen a lot of large companies blow up over the last year, whether it's risk management and code or risk management and investments. But the goal for every user should be, okay, how can you minimize risk, right? And we do have tooling that is coming that can assist in terms of actual distributed ownership, distributed development. But, if you're going to have a governance token and you have zero power, you have zero, let's say, visibility in terms of funds, you have zero, let's say, awareness in terms of what's actually happening, you don't govern anything. You just have a speculative asset. And so I would encourage people to really search, in terms of the, let's say, rug pull aspect, where are you putting your trust, right? Because the idea behind, blockchains as a whole should be minimizing or eliminating trust. And so if we can, create systems where we do have kind of the community or distribution of trust in terms of projects and their development, it would be much harder to rug pull. What someone would end up doing is just getting removed from the project, right? And certainly open source code is going to be beneficial there. Certainly the idea that, we're just going to throw our money at things, hopefully, people stay away from, because it generally doesn't end well. But I do agree with Dan that you cannot eliminate bad actors, but what you can do is you can put them in an environment where they don't have absolute control, right? And if you have a environment where you have distributed trust and transparency, it can be difficult to be a bad actor because, suddenly people can see that there's visibility, right? So I would hope that, as the space matures, we actually do see more engagement in terms of the governance side. And the reality is, if you buy a governance token just to speculate and you don't have the tools to engage and you don't have the desire to engage, I really have to question whether that's a good idea or not, because, hopefully you take power in that project. And that's ultimately, in my opinion, how you can protect yourself. Now, I do think the best standard is to have a minimal viable product. before you fundraise. But I also recognize that development does have a certain cost overhead, right? And that can be a difficult thing to achieve depending on how ambitious the project is. But you can still put things in a distributed environment, even if it's more building on an idea. Now, in terms of behavior, I think you just have to enforce as much as possible on chain, whether it's unlocks, payments, treasuries, you kind of have to use the tooling of the blockchain itself to try to protect malicious behavior. Now, you can't always eliminate malicious actors, but I do think a lot can be done to disempower them. In terms of more the immutable fee-based model, there's an incentive for developers to pursue that. And the nice thing about that methodology of development is it doesn't require governance, right? The downside is if there's a problem, everybody can kind of lose and then you have to update, but you do learn and you do harden things over time if you build open source the right way. So hopefully it's something that the community, and not just Ergo, but beyond Ergo, matures about. I think that ultimately, if you take that responsibility to minimize the power that bad actors can have, you protect yourself and everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're developing in an ecosystem where you are, when your main tools should be trustless environment. And just like with anything, you should be utilizing the trust environment for a contingency in your own business. So absolutely, Joe, I definitely agree with that. And hopefully we could mature as an ecosystem and create the tooling that will, I guess, allow us for better governance, better community governance of these projects.